top-level operators from the private sector and senior government officials, and of course the president, will be meeting in Abuja today for the Nigerian Economic Summit to discuss how best to develop the Nigerian economy and monitor the progress that is being made. Now, issues that will be discussed is how to create an enabling environment conducive to good governance and responsible private sector investment and, of course, sustainable economic growth. But joining me on the line is one of the panelists. It's Bismark Rewane. He's the CEO of Financial Derivatives. Thanks so much for joining us, Bismark, this morning. And of course, the much anticipated event taking off today. What are some of the key issues you expect to come out of this event, Bismark?
Well, it's a policy review and also execution of strategy review. We're going to be looking at discussions surrounding the reform agenda. At what point are we going to be able to look at some of the reform agenda initiatives and see whether they're on track and whether they need to be tweaked a little bit, or whether they need to be upgraded? As you are fully aware, there are things in power reform, there are things in the petroleum industry bill, there are things about the downstream sector, about subsidy and all that need to be discussed. And so this will be a very high-level policy and reform agenda discussion and debate. Everything we put on the table, and both the policymakers, the operators, the market participants, and the capital market operators, international investors, all of them will be there together to air their views. And I think after the session, the government will go back to the drawing board and see some things that are going to be reviewed, and Nigeria will be the better off for it.
Now, like you said, Bismark, I mean, the focus will be short to medium-term policy directions. But in the past, how much of what has been discussed has actually been applied?
The record has not been very encouraging, but we are at crossroads now. For the first time, we are actually disposing or divesting from the downstream, the discos, the distribution companies. The transmission company issue is in limbo. It's being discussed right now. The GENCOs are also being divested. These are critical issues. How it's been done, how it's been executed, whether it will accomplish the goals for which we set out to achieve in the beginning. These are the issues that are going to be discussed at this policy dialogue forum.
And Bismark, I mean, definitely the power sector is going to be topping the list of discussion points. But what about issues like security? Certainly the whole Boko Haram terrorist issue has been a major concern in Nigeria. Do you think that we'll be delving into this issue this time around?
I don't think so. The security issues have always been issues in Nigeria, but now they've come to the forefront. It will be raised, but security issues are not discussed in policy dialogues or in the public forum. They are, by its nature, security is security, and it's governed by intelligence and other variables. In any case, we are in the middle of a discussion, dialogue between the Nigerian government, or back-channel talks between Nigerian government and whoever supposedly are the Boko Haram. We are hoping and we are optimistic that will work. And so we are going beyond the security issues. We are looking at Nigeria beyond. The medium-term expenditure framework is for 3 years. The Vision 2020 is from now for the next 6-7 years. There are a number of issues that need to be actually discussed fully to see whether we are making progress. So yes, the security is a constraint, but that is being dealt with by the appropriate authorities.
And Bismark, I mean, one of the major issues that we've seen being discussed in the past few weeks, certainly at the SEC conference in Delta State last week, is the greater role that the capital market is going to be playing in development in Nigeria. What do you think? Do you think this is going to be one of the major issues we're going to hear, funding development and transformation in Nigeria in 2013? Absolutely.
This is the key thing, because we have focused too much on numeric short-term variables like inflation, money supply, interest rates, and all that. We have not looked at the development indices. The development indices are there. That is human capital, the number of the road network, the ports, the refineries, the power stations, and all of that. The level of capital formation, which is one of the issues the governor of the central bank was alluding to. The level of capital formation, which is required to drive the multiplier, what we call the investment multiplier on income, and the actual investment accelerator as well. So that when you put all of this together, you will have development, you will also have growth, and you will also have welfare. Those were the three variables that this summit is going to be addressing.
Right, and certainly Bismark, the invite said, you're going to be looking at the big picture, maybe not focusing so much on narrow sectoral interests. And certainly, I'd love to find out what is going to be discussed when we look at small and medium enterprises in Nigeria, because they make up a large part of our economy. They said for the development of Nigeria and the benefit of all stakeholders. And certainly, these are a part of the major stakeholders in Nigeria's future. What do you think we're going to look at in this area?
There's a big issue here. The thing is that some of the major investments we are making are not labor intensive. Take, for example, the investment in telecoms, the investment in upstream oil and gas. These are not labor intensive, but when you have a population of 160 million, you need to have those job creating initiatives. So we're going to have a two-track approach. One, we are not going to shy away from investing in the technology intensive areas which are not job creating, but we also have to do things about agriculture, the agricultural food processing chain. Minister Additional is focusing on a number of issues. There's the fertilizer, the seedlings, the land preparation, and all those things. Those are things that are going to engage the minds of people, how to reform and transform the agricultural sector. At the same time, things like cement, building materials, road construction, ports construction, these are the things that are going to create jobs and create the linkages. So because if we have high unemployment and high growth, that's going to be counterproductive.
Right, and Bismark, certainly the big elephant in the room there certainly will be the topic of corruption, good governance. I'm wondering, is the private sector planning to take the government on when it comes to issues such as corruption?
Well, corruption is both a private sector and a public sector issue, and I think the private sector has to do some house cleaning, which is what they're doing, the governance and the transparency issues. But the government also, we are going to have to deal with corruption, but also the other issues. Can we continue to subsidize consumption rather than subsidize production? That's an issue which is going to come up. Everybody's going to try and shy away from it, but the reality is that we have to deal with the subsidy issue and we have to deal with corruption as well.